If you don't know basic Arabic grammar, it doesn't matter how many Arabs you converse with or how much coffee and kunafa you order, if everything that you read and translate is questionable. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about what advice I would give to myself back when I first started learning the Arabic language, based on what I know now, based on the experiences that I've had so far with my journey learning the Arabic language, and just thinking about many of you who may be in the same boat and potentially being able to give you some advice or pointers, some things that I wish I knew sooner that may be able to help you take it a step further than I did in the early stages of your Arabic learning journey. So I'm going to jump right into it and give you 5 things that I wish I knew when I first started learning the Arabic language. And the first is, you can't memorize your way to fluency. You've never heard anyone say, I've memorized German or English or I've memorized French, for example, because learning and memorizing are 2 completely different things. Learning is a gradual process that is the result of experience and study coming together. Simply memorizing words doesn't help us develop understanding, the ability to express ideas or to make connections between our experiences and this new knowledge that we're acquiring. Now, if you're traveling or you're moving to an Arab country, for example, and you decide to memorize words that are common and essential, like the words used to describe some important documents or personal hygiene items and household items, or even just like basic conversation, then for sure this is helpful and maybe even necessary. And these words are more likely to be recalled to your memory almost immediately because of their frequent usage. Or similarly, memorizing some terminology that is key to understanding a subject that you're about to dive into, for example. But as a long-term method, this is exhausting and ineffective, especially if we live in an English-speaking environment. And even more so if our aim is to develop fluency in our reading comprehension. How many people memorize something for an exam in school, and a week after they write it, if you were to ask them about the subject, they don't remember anything at all? Memorization does have its place in the process of learning a new language, but we didn't become fluent in English by simply memorizing words. We were hearing its sounds. We had pictures on cue cards that our parents may have went through with us of a cat, bat, hat, dog, these types of things. Or our favorite stories that were read to us that allowed us to retain some of these words before we could even recognize them, maybe even before we knew the alphabet. If your aim is long-term growth that leads to fluency, it's done through increased exposure to the Arabic language and repetition. This is how we connect with what we're learning. It's retained because it's connected to an experience or frequent use that allows us to rediscover the meanings of these words in different contexts. So in short, more learning, less memorization. Increase and diversify your exposure to the Arabic language. And this leads me to my next point. Read, and then read some more. And not only read, but listen and speak as early on in your learning journey as possible, to the extent that you're able, even if it's only a couple of sentences or a paragraph. But with reading specifically, it will drastically improve and enhance your vocabulary and your ability to retain these words. It will also give you an understanding of how common words are used within different contexts, especially if you're doing a lot of self-study. So read out loud and often, and this way you'll constantly be seeing, hearing, and using these words. It'll naturally stick, and you'll be able to easily recall the meanings of these words when you see them elsewhere or when you see them in a different format or context. Bottom line is, the longer you wait to put these skills to use, you risk losing motivation, momentum, and even worse, what you've learned altogether. Don't stunt your growth and progress by having this mindset or this idea that there's one more thing you need, right? One more course or one more book or one more vocab list. No, get started like today, right? And then a year from now, you'll be able to look back and be glad that you did. This is how you challenge yourself. This is how you see where you need improvement and how you also strengthen those weaknesses in the process, especially when you don't have a teacher or you don't have the means to join a course or a program. Number 3, pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a race. Right? Never compare your progress to others. You don't know the reality of someone else's journey. The resources that they've had access to, you may not. The level of prior exposure that they may have had to the Arabic language, that might not be your reality. Their learning style not yours. And their provision is not necessarily what's in store for you. So do what works for you and find a steady enough pace that works for your lifestyle and your learning style. Because everyone's journey is different. And as a result, you may need to take a different approach from the rest. And this requires patience and persistence. There are so many people who burn out or their motivation just completely fizzles because they're taking this keep up with the Joneses type approach. I'm here to break the news to you. Fast Arabic is a myth. Okay. Have people made significant progress over the course of a couple months or a year or so? Most definitely. And mashallah, that's great. But progress and mastery are not the same. No one masters the Arabic language in such a short time frame. It's a process and it's just not possible. So there's no need to be hard on yourself or think that you're not capable of learning the Arabic language because you took the same course or approach as so and such and you haven't made the same progress in the course of 6 months or a year or whatever it may be. This is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Even in my method, approach, or advice, there's no absolutes. Right? Take what's good and again, do what works for you, but do it at your pace. Number 4, quality over quantity. How many times have we heard this or quoted this? This is like a foundational principle in anything that you do, really, especially study of the Arabic language. It's not about how long you study. It's not about how many books you study. It's not about how many courses, teachers, or institutes. It's never about the amount or the numbers, right? There's no scoreboard here. There's no statisticians. What Allah opens for us is not based on how much we do, but how we do it. And I've mentioned before the importance of intentions based on what the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. Because of its weightiness and significance, some of the scholars have mentioned that this is 1/2 of all knowledge. And others said this encompasses all knowledge because the Prophet ﷺ said, actions are only according to their intentions, and each person will only have that which they intend. So the right intention coupled with small, consistent effort can take us much further than extensive, chaotic effort, which is why it's often said, the one who keeps turning never reaches his goal, right? And it's really a universal principle. How are you supposed to attain something or achieve your goal if you keep going off in different directions? You keep getting pulled in different directions. Always have a clear goal and work toward it with focused, consistent, disciplined efforts, no matter how small they are. Deep understanding of one thing is better than a shallow or surface level understanding of many. Number 5, who really needs grammar? You do. I do. We all do. You need grammar. Can we get by in the Arabic language on grammar alone? Of course not, right? Not at all. But learning grammar, reading, understanding, and communicating all go hand in hand. If you don't know basic Arabic grammar, it doesn't matter how many Arabs you converse with or how much coffee and kunafa you order if everything that you read and translate is questionable. And yes, Arabic is very much rooted in oral tradition, but Arabic grammar was codified for us, non-Arabs, or because of us, right? To preserve the integrity of the language. So for us to just kind of forego that or overlook it, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, right? It doesn't really add up. And even though I do believe that, reading, speaking, writing, and listening are all important skills to develop throughout the course of your language learning journey, I did not come to the Arabic language really concerned with speaking to Arabs. And at least for many of the people that I've met and that I know, and in my own personal experience, the Quran has always been the main goal, the main focus, right? Otherwise, I mean, I've never really came across the Arabic language and I would never ever really concern myself to learn it. Like, I'm just being honest. So I started learning Arabic in, I believe, 2015, and I didn't have a structured course or teacher, and I was doing a minimum of 15 minutes a day. That was my goal. And every day I did 15 minutes for the better part of a year and a half or so, until I was able to find a course locally or a teacher. But even at that point, many of the courses were covering basic things that I had already been through. And it wasn't until I believe 2017 when I had a teacher that, her teaching style was a little different. She really incorporated speaking some basic phrases, writing, reading different texts and translating. And that kind of motivated and inspired me and was a push for me to kind of challenge myself a little bit more, right? So that was roughly around 2017, I believe. And really this whole time, my main focus was Quranic Arabic and grammar. So really all I was doing was reading and translating the Quran pretty much. And, I had knowledge of some basic phrases in the Arabic language. Really, that was what I had, right? Just a lot of grammar and knowledge of how to translate the Quran, how to read the Quran and understand that. And in 2018 was the first time that I went to Saudi Arabia. So think about that. Maybe 3 years of studying just grammar and Quran, mainly reading comprehension with a little bit of short phrases and stuff like that. And everyone was saying like, look, when you go, nobody's going to be able to understand you. You're not going to be able to understand them. I heard a lot of stories like this, right? Nobody speaks Fusha or proper Arabic. And so I went with the intention of not being able to understand anything. And to my surprise, I understood like 90% of what people were saying just in the general day to day. And I could maintain a basic conversation with people, knowing grammar and all that time that I spent learning grammar and really applying that in reading. And, these small interactions that I had really helped me grasp the language more quickly and easily when I was hearing it amongst, native Arab speakers. I was able to pick up on words more quickly. I had an application at a university that I was trying to follow up on, and I actually met an Egyptian brother out there, and, he spoke English as well. So basically, he kicked it with me for the day. We went to eat and stuff like that. And so now, I'm hearing all of these different interactions in Arabic, how they use words and, their style of speaking, and just kind of really picking up on that and being immersed in that. That was like a really beneficial moment for me. Yeah, he took me to the admin office, and again, I could have basic conversation, but speaking extensively about administrative stuff and all that probably wouldn't go well. Right? So he came with me and helped me out, and they decided to interview me, and I could understand pretty much everything that this interviewer was asking. And though he was there kind of translating a little bit, he noticed that I was answering like right away, right? So after we left, he was kind of like, stop playing around. Like, why are you acting like you don't know the Arabic language? And we just kind of laughed about it, right? It wasn't that I was pretending like I didn't know the Arabic language. I genuinely didn't expect to understand as much as I did. And I told him, look, like, though I can understand what people are saying, me being able to speak extensively about certain things, like, I don't have that capability, right? But my point in sharing all of this is that grammar really played a main role in my ability to really read and translate and understand, but also my ability to pick up on speech, even like different dialects. For example, hearing someone speak, being like, are you from Egypt? And they're like, yeah, how did you know? And I'm like, because I know that Egyptians say, for example, guma, not Juma, right? Their Jim is like a G, right? Little stuff like that. Whereas you wouldn't really be able to pick that up if you're not accustomed to how words are formulated in the Arabic language, how they are in their different formats. Maybe someone says a word, you think it's one word, but really it's three together, right? How are you supposed to pick that up? You know what I mean? So in my opinion, I feel like all of these things go hand in hand, right? Like I said, just really increasing and diversifying your exposure to the Arabic language. But again, if your aim is specifically to read and understand and comprehend the Quran, for example, or a tafsir, or to really look at something like, grammatical analysis of a word in the Quran, like what is it doing here? Right? How are you going to do that without grammar? So hopefully this was beneficial. Let me know in the comments below your experience with the Arabic language. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Your comments may help other people benefit further as well. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this was beneficial. Let me know if you have a different perspective even, or some additional advice that may be able to help some students who are beginning their journey in the Arabic language. And stay tuned for the next few videos, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.